Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I have the pleasure of bringing back one of our amazing sisters. Welcome, welcome, welcome back to the tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kneeshe Parkinson, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, United States and North America. I am glad to be amongst you people today. I was diagnosed in 1997, living with HIV. I wanted to share with you today my story so that other people can know how a person living with HIV can live beyond a diagnosis. Back on 1997, I was working in a local health clinic. And 2 weeks prior to that, I went into my own health clinic to get a well woman's exam. And during that well woman's exam, I had to wait roughly about 2 weeks for my HIV test to come back. And as I entered the clinic where I attended to receive my results, because they could not give those to me over the phone, I walk into the first space of the clinic and introduce myself, and I talked to the young lady at the registrar table to let her know I'm coming in and giving her my demographics. So I gave her that information, and she provided a piece of paper to me that day. And she asked me to walk down a hallway and walk alongside a purple stripping on the wall. So I took that piece of paper as she instructed me, walked down the hallway to the purple stripping, and I followed that along the hallway for roughly about maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And I went into that clinic space. I met with the registrar there, gave her the piece of paper, and sat down like any other person in the building, coming in for medical routine checkup. During that time period, I sat there, looked at a magazine or two, and looked at the clock and saw the TV on the wall. And then this young woman called me by my first and last name, and I entered her room. On that day, my life changed forever. She had just told me that I had tested positive for HIV. She showed me a pink piece of paper on the desk in front of me, and she said R stands for reactive. The next checkbox that was there had another checkbox, and it was an R inside of it with a check mark there. And the third one had another check mark with an R there saying that that was reactive. At that time, I went numb. I held my head down. I was embarrassed to receive a diagnosis such as that, a life-threatening diagnosis. And she asked me, did I have anyone to call at that time? And I told her I can call my sister and my best friend. So she dialed the number, and I called my sister, and I informed my sister that I had just tested positive for HIV. Not knowing what my sister would say at that time or how she would be feeling at that time, but I had to divulge it to someone. And that was the first person that I had ever told in my lived experiences, my sister, because I knew that she would come and she would care for me in a special way, and we would get through it. And then my best friend came as well. But let me tell you one thing for certain. That day, 2 people ended up knowing my diagnosis. My sister and her supervisor at that time. She was working for a local gas station, and she was the only one able to stay on her shift because her supervisor was leaving at that time. And her supervisor forced her to tell her what had happened to me. As I continued to think about that day of receiving that diagnosis and going home with my family, I laid on the couch and my sister was, just trying to really figure out everything and put things in perspective for me as a young woman, a young adolescent. I was 17 years old, receiving a diagnosis of that such. And so we put a list together to see who could we tell at that time and who could we allow keeping this private information private for my family. At that time, my mother was not doing well. She was sick in the hospital during that time. And my dad was trying to keep the home together as best as he knew how he could. So, with that being said, we came up with a list. And I was given paperwork from the individual, the young woman at the clinic, to take to another clinic where they would actually treat me for HIV or provide me information that I would need to walk through a new adaptation to my life. So we read over some of the paperwork, me and my sister, but I just was really just out of it. I really didn't want to be bothered with anyone. I felt disgusted and numb and just abnormal at that time because I didn't know if I would live or die. And my sister went to my first visit with me, and we met my case manager during that time. And she instructed us about the medical appointments and medications that I would be afforded and how those medications would get paid through the Ryan White system. I can say for one thing for certain and two things for sure. The case manager that I had at that time, she knew the system and how to navigate the system of care planning for me. She felt like she had to do that in her due diligence as a social worker. And we were well received during that process. Also, with that being said, navigating the doctor's care and being able to use your voice to speak with the doctors were described to me in a way that don't be ashamed of who you are and what you're living with, but go ahead and get the best quality care that you can. And that's how the case manager for me explained it to me and my sister. I think if I could do it all over again, there was one thing that I can share with you all today is know your status early on and know the facts. Get treatment and making sure that you keep all of your health care barriers or social determinants of health that you walk through at its highest esteem. You know, there is no dumb questions. So ask all of the questions that you can possibly ask for yourself. Mental health wise, during that process, yes, my mental health was weak, very weak, very distraught. I was angry. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know why me. It's not who you are, it's the things that you do that put you at risk. And, everyone in America is risk of something. But with that being said, using the education that we have today, 40 years forward, and people are living stronger, better. There are more medications out there. We're continually trying to reduce stigma and discrimination for persons living with HIV every day. But knowing your status is how you can end HIV in your own self-worth.
Wow, Kneeshe, what a story. I have heard you speak before, and it always blows me away that you were young when all of this happened. So, how old were you exactly? You went on to have a baby who is healthy and vibrant. Tell us a little bit about how old you were, becoming a mother, and doing all of these amazing things you've done now until you got your doctorate.
Yes, so I was 17 years old. I am 47 now. I had my young baby in 2002, so she's roughly about 23 years old. She is a newly graduate of her bachelor's degree in psychology. And being a single mom, always resonates with me because we are willow trees. We bend, but we don't break. So with being a single mom, I knew I wanted to afford my daughter a better life. I wanted her to be afforded a healthy life. So mother to baby transmission has been reduced greatly. So women are bringing babies into the world HIV negative based on the medications that we take on a daily basis. And that was afforded to me during that time to be able to bring in a healthy young baby in my younger years. 40 years forward, I'm 47, as I said, and doing the things that I've been doing, advocacy, women's feminine rights movements, working with high esteem conferences such as the NMAC and the USCHA conference and other conferences throughout the world. Um, it has afforded me the ability to showcase my storytelling in the way that people can thrive and know that it's not a diagnosis. It's about living. It's about having hope. It's about having tenacity. It's about doing the things that you want to do and have self worth to do those things. Delayed is not denied. Just because I got a diagnosis, nothing was delayed, nothing was denied. I just had to use my willpower to navigate being a single mom, dealing with discrimination, dealing with stigma, and holding myself accountable each and every day.
Now, you said that stigma is more dangerous than HIV itself. Can you share why?
Oh, wow. Gertrude, stigma is more dangerous than HIV because it kills, it hurts. People walk in silence when they are stigmatized, or individuals feel like the three-letter word is just on their forehead, and they don't have people that can support them or share their information. I am so grateful that I've been able to have a great support system and that my family loves me unconditionally, and I'm able to teach them how to keep themselves safe. I'm able to support my daughter in conversations with her friends and things of that nature as she grew up. I've been able to be on the front line of health disparities and using my voice and working alongside of individuals who carry information such as like the CDC and the Health Resource Administrations. You know, those scientists and researchers every day they're doing things to serve us. And with that meaningful involvement for persons living with HIV and our voices being heard and shown around the world, it's not the end of the epidemic, but we're still trying 40 years forward.
Now, you talk about family support. How did your sister's reaction in those first few moments influence your healing journey?
I just think her, having the guts to even tell her supervisor that day and just not throwing in the towel and say, I quit my job, Um, she's a strong woman. So I knew she knew that this was meaningful for me at that time. She probably didn't have all of the questions wrapped around her brain or the answers coming out of her mouth, but she knew she had to get to me. She knew that this was devastating. She knew that I could not walk this alone. And her having her own two kids at that time, her two daughters at that time, they were much younger, and just trying to keep our family together so that we would not go to children's division and things of that nature, knowing that my mom was in the hospital and my dad was doing the best that he could at that time. So she is my superhero. A lot of times she don't get that pat on the back or that clap or those flowers, but I can tell you today, she is my superhero and she still continues to be my superhero, no matter that she's the oldest.
So, what role did your very first case manager play in shaping your resilience? I remember you telling me the story about her.
Oh, her name is Jessica Forsythe, and I do have permission to use her name today. Jessica was a light bright. She was much younger than I was her first client out of social work school. And she was just so enjoyable to work with. But I can say she also made me do the work too. It was participatory the whole way through, even though I was so fragile each time I came into her office or needed some support or needed guidance. I remember the first conference that I went to in Baltimore, Maryland. And I met a young woman by the name of Linda Scruggs. And Linda, I came in with my church suits on and I was like, I'm here. I don't know what this destined project of this conference is going to bring for myself, but I'm here. I knew I wanted to afford myself the lived experience with education, influence, healing, and being around others who walk like me, talk like me, and look like me, so that I can get through the pain and the storm that I was walking through during that time frame. And I tell you, we call her Mama Linda Scruggs. She has carried me from adolescent, me being young, 17-year-old, to my whopping age of 47. And she has continued to embody an epitome of leadership around me with prayer, love, hugs, push, accountability, and everything. I have kept up with Jessica since then, over the last 28 years of me being living and walking through this new adaptation to my lived experience. And she is doing well. Her children are young men, and she is doing vibrantly well. So, yes, she lives in Denver, Colorado, and we are hopefully next year we can get together because COVID took us all out for 5 years and we could not visit and see each other. So hopefully next year, Lord's will, I'll be able to travel there and see her and the boys.
So how did becoming a single mom intersect with your advocacy work? I know when I had my first child, it gave life a completely different meaning.
I think where that came from is me working at the university and working with a nonprofit called Project Arc AIDS Resource and Knowledge here in St. Louis. I know that it provided the totality for me to intersect my daughter with her lived experience and education. Because she is a young child, she was a young child at that time, and education was key for me. And learning from the doctor, when she was a newborn, giving her medications right off, and having a nurses for newborn nurse come to my home, and having my infectious disease nurse come to my home too as well, to cultivate the lived experience for my daughter as a newborn, and teaching me the skill set that I needed to know with giving her the medications adequately. I don't think if I wouldn't have had that information or had that support, I don't think I would be as far as I am in her lived experiences today. I think it's rewarding to have summer camps for our children who have parents living with HIV. So she was introduced to several summer camps where she was able to go a week or two away in Michigan and in Minnesota. Camp One Heartland, I'm going to give them a shout out because they afforded my daughter to have the ability to learn about HIV/AIDS as an adolescent herself, and learning what her mom is actually walking through. And she could be able to use the educators there, when she's not having a good day or wanted to talk about something very private, they would help her be accountable for that space. Wow. Long after that of attending and she got of age, she was able to become a leader in training herself and reduplicate what was taught to her. So it was a mighty win for not just only her, but for me too as well.
Now, you've navigated Section 8 housing to home ownership. What mindset shifts made that possible?
Wow. It was my case manager. It was my housing case manager, Demetria Hicks. She was my housing case manager, and I would go in and talk with her about, me wanting to go back to school and getting my associate's degree in something. So in 2007, I was able to get my associate's degree in human services at a local college in my region. Also, I was able to afford myself with getting my bachelor's degree during that time of being on Section 8 housing, and affording me to get more income for me and my daughter during that time, which was rewarding, and she showed me how to kind of do a budget and looking at my budgetary goals in my household for as Pampers, diapers, formula, clothing, things of that nature. and turning in my check stubs. She needed those on a research basis. So every time I recertified, she would ask for those. And then she would ask, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? And I would always tell her, I want to do home ownership, or I want to live in a private community. Not saying that I'm bougie or anything, but I just wanted to live in a private, nice community so that I can continue to bring up my daughter in a successful school district and things of that nature. So each time she brought me into her office for something, it was all about goal setting and just holding me accountable. And when she told me that they were only going to pay $5 a month more for my rent, that was all that they could pay, and I had to pay the rest. I was like, okay, it's time for me to get off this voucher program today, because I want to give an opportunity to some other young mother to use the ability of the voucher program, not to allow it to enable her, but to use it to her advantage. So I was able to come back and talk to a group of young women and men and share my story about giving up the St. Louis Section 8 voucher program that I was on for someone else to walk in my shoes.
It's just amazing. You've come such a long way. Now, what's the meaning behind your phrase, miracles cost extra?
Wow, you say that. So, miracles cost extra because I'm a survivor and I've walked through so many different things, traumatic things, mental health things, great things, So it's like a roller coaster, right? I said at the beginning, we are a willow tree, but we don't break, we bend. So miracles do cost extra. And I believe that I am a miracle sitting here today, talking to the audience and talking to you. To letting people know that motherhood is real. You can reduce stigma by your story. You can allow God to do all that He needs to do in your life. And it takes time to grow. So just continue to fertilize your grass and groom your grass and continue to water it and make sure that it's going to have the plentiful fruitfulness of the harvest that you desire to see. And I think that would help individuals know that faith without work is dead. And what I mean about that is that you put one foot in front of the other, you continue to hold your head up high, and you project your voice and ask questions. There's no dumb question, just ask.
Oh, wow. Now, you also talk about rooting for your damn self. What does that look like in practice?
It's patting yourself on the back, dancing in the rain, crying in the shower, hitting the steering wheel where you're driving, and looking at your bills and saying, the ends are not meeting. What can I do to gain more passive income for myself? Or what can I take away? If you go to Starbucks 7 times a week, then you're going to have to cut back somewhere, So when you're rooting for your damn self, root in a way that you're accountable, root in a way that you know that you can pivot from the left to the right. And when plan A doesn't work out, make sure you have a plan B, C, and D.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, what are the biggest systemic barriers that Black women face in the workplace today? There's so much going on in the US. The other day, I was scrolling online. I think I sent you a cutting of how I think 300,000 Black women are out of work at the moment. Tell us a little bit about that.
That's a pandemic in my brain. I was sharing it early on to a god sister of mine riding back in the car today. And I was on the phone with her and I said, a friend of mine sent me a flyer. 300,000 Black women in the last 90 days are without income. It's devastating. And it's an attack on Black women. Why is that? Why? What did we do to be attacked? But me thinking about navigating and being accountable, how do we fight back? We fight back and we find tables that we build ourselves. We build them ourselves. We
Yeah.
bring people to the table and we allow our tables to grow. Add an extra chair to that table.
I love
And when
it.
we add that extra chair to that table, it multiplies. Strategies, strategic strategies of ideas of women, Black women, that they have the skill set to grow by sitting at that table.
Mm, mm,
I challenge every Black woman that's listening to me today. Use your mindset to grow. You have it birthed down in your belly from your mother's womb, your ancestors. Use your mindset to grow.
So, what would you say is your proudest moment in your 28-year journey living with HIV?
Wow. My proudest moment is my 15 minutes of fame back in 2018 when I had the opportunity to tell my story at the Health Resource Administration, the Ryan White National Conference in Ions, Maryland. Being on that stage brought me resilience. It brought me a renewed, refreshed value for my lived experiences. It brought and amplified my life in a way that I knew that I can continue to churn and move forward. Because the road that happens, it gets thick, right? And it's lonely at the top sometimes
Yeah. Yeah.
for people that are in high esteemed places and have leadership roles that they have to keep their integrity intact.
Yeah.
And that day gave me 15 minutes of fame to really know my truth worth. Meeting Jeannie Grinder White, Ryan White's mother, that day in the green room, and being able to talk with her off camera and really thank her for her tenacity of pushing the government to making sure that persons living with HIV after her son had passed away and transitioned. His self efficacy of leadership and legacy provided me an opportunity to live. And I owe it not just to her, I owe it to the doctors that have came across my pathway and said, "You look good today."
Mm, I love it. So, you supported other women in leadership. What qualities do you think every leader should cultivate?
Consistency. You have to have consistency. You have to have follow up. And you have to have trust. And you also have to have love and hope in your heart. If you have those things to continue to motivate you as a leader, you will do good in your genre of career on and off the court. You know, use that basketball mentality. I'm not a basketball superstar, but I see those girls in women national basketball, they be hooping. So utilize the games that you have not only to play, but to be able to target your ability of your ideas and your strategic growth and utilize each and every piece of your growth to the best of your ability. And don't be shameful. If you don't know something, ask. Get a mentor. Be accountable for you.
So, I'm going to finish our interview with two questions that are a bit of a thought experiment. In the first one, I'm going to teleport you back to go and have a conversation with the younger you, the young woman who got this diagnosis at a time where HIV was almost like a death sentence. If you could go back and give her three nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those three nuggets of wisdom be?
The three nuggets that I would tell my younger self is allow yourself to be you. You didn't make a mistake, you fell in love, and to harness your inner self and your inner being to show up for the world to see.
That's beautiful. And now leave us with a bit of advice to women who are facing the double stigma of health and racial bias. What advice would you give to women, especially women in the US right now?
The women in the U.S., we're fierce women. We stand as champions, we stand as light bright, and we stand as flowers. Continue to fight back, continue to use your space and own your spaces. Continue to know that your body autonomy matters. Don't dim your light and continue to speak volumes over you, your family, and your loved ones each and every day. You will walk through the storm, you will walk through the rain, but hold your head up high, smile, and know that you will get through it. It's not easy. We are walking through a troubling time and challenging times right now. So continue to keep the faith and continue to do you because you're worthy of it each and every day.
Absolutely beautiful. We've had a few comments coming in online. There's an amazing young woman in Canada that I'm going to introduce you to. She says, reducing stigma by your story. What a powerful statement. Thank you so much, Chisimba, for chiming in from Canada. Now, Kneeshe, you give me pleasure every single time you show up and you share your story. How can women reach out to you? I do have your website at the bottom of the screen. What does your nonprofit do? What can people expect when they are looking for some support?
Rise Impact is called Rejuvenate, Influence, Self, Elevation through or on Impact. And our website is posted beneath. Also, Rise Impact, our mission is social determinants of health to help women, children, youth, and their families combat economic shortfalls in housing, utility assistance. We give a Christmas toy drive every year annually, and we help women find resources. Say, for instance, you have a mental health issue or a crisis, we will pair you up and give you resources to local organizations in the St. Louis area. If you're calling in on a national level, that national level number we will give you. If you know a friend or a loved one that is suffering for suicide, we have things listed on our website as well. Our recent benefactor, we had some storms here May 16th in St. Louis, Missouri, where we were able to support families by staying in hotels due to their homes being destroyed from the tornadoes on the May 16th disasters. So people are still donating to those causes. So we have our donation link available at riseimpactlife.org. And our phone number where you can reach us is area code 314-440-7863. You can text us, you can send us your name. If you want prayer, we do have pastors that actively pray for our families. We just recently had a back to school event. So if you want to donate to our back to school event, you can do that also on our website as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Kneeshe. Always a pleasure to bring you back and see where you are on your journey. And thank you to everybody who tuned in. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of people from all over the world. Share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Kneeshe, thanks again for the interview. Don't go away.
Thank you again.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, And together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story. Thank you so much.